Police Chief Diggs yesterday was kind of surprising, shocking news for many. Didn't know that there were health issues. I guess for a few months he was on leave. So there were some health issues that the department didn't relay to people, but we were sorry to hear of the passing of Police Chief Diggs. We'll talk more about that coming up in just a minute. I know he's on his way I guess he's traveling, but we do appreciate an early visit with our Congressman Byron Donalds, who's joining us this morning on Daybreak, 92.5 Fox News, with a lot going on. First of all, good morning. How are you, sir?
Doing good, Drew. The Southwest Florida airport looks great this time of the morning.
Yeah, it does. It's nice. It's the sun's coming up. I don't even know. I have no windows, so I don't even. Is the sun up? I don't even know what it looks like outside.
Yeah, it's actually a nice sunrise in Southwest Florida.
All right.
For Florida, it's always morning.
Yeah.
It's a great place to be. It's actually a beautiful sunrise.
It's always morning.
Yeah.
It is. That's true. Hey, listen. A couple of things. I guess I have to ask you this just because I'm curious on Capitol Hill, like what is the buzz and what they're talking about. I haven't had a chance to talk to you about the balloons. Haven't had a chance to talk to you about our sovereignty and the concerns about Chinese spy balloons and other things that are floating around, and maybe get your thoughts on this. And also, like, what the buzz is on Capitol Hill. I mean, the concerns that so many of us have that this was tracked, and some of the late information that we're getting, what they knew beforehand and when they knew it, and the lack of transparency. Maybe your thoughts on all of this.
Oh, I think your concerns are the same concerns as most members of Congress, frankly, every member of Congress. The administration was mum about all this stuff. Everybody found out on the news. Listen, the Montana delegation and the governor of Montana found out on the news. They didn't get a call from the president. Nobody contacted the governor of Montana and said, hey, we want to alert you, something's coming into your airspace, and we think it's problematic. They found out on the news like everybody else. And so what really happened is the administration wasn't going to do anything. They wanted to just sit back and hopefully let the news cycle leave, on, and people wouldn't let it go. So then they had to go shoot it down over South Carolina. Now the stance is we're shooting down everything. So it's the same foolishness with Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Leading from behind, trying to jump in front of the parade because people have gotten to that place without him to show that he's some tough leader. He's not. And other leaders around the world see it and they know it.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the concern, too, is, again, transparency on so many levels, transparency and the things that we were told we were going to get with this administration that we don't get. Where we have balloons and all of these things going on, and the convenience of, the news that was happening before all of that took place. But that's a beside the point thing, and I'm not putting on any tinfoil hats. Two, the lack of transparency and the concerns about what's happening with the train derailment in Ohio, and the lack of transparency there, and the things that we're not hearing about, and a transportation secretary and a president who's had every opportunity to talk about all of these things, and we're not hearing enough about it. How concerned are you about that? Oh, did we lose him?
And so you have him there. He's not actually leading when it comes to making sure our trains don't derail with toxic chemicals in them. And I'm not blaming him for this crash, because there needs to be a long investigation about what's happening in Ohio. But he's more worried about white construction workers on job sites in minority communities. I mean, this stuff is a joke. It's past sad now. It's not even a joke anymore. It's just sick. Like, I'm sick of it at this point. Yeah. And unfortunately, we got like another year and a half of this administration before they get the boot, because they're the worst I've ever seen.
And ultimately, if you're wondering why it is so, what the concern is when it comes to being destructive and damaging, it's because when you put people in because you're trying to check a box as opposed to somebody who's qualified, you get people who don't do the things that they need to do in order to keep you safe, in order to keep the country safe. We have big issues when it comes to that. And so that's the biggest problem, is checking the box doesn't necessarily mean the best available, and that hurts everybody.
100%. Like, I don't care if you're a woman, or obviously I don't care if you're black. I think being black is a great thing. I personally, I think it's awesome. But that stuff doesn't matter. What matters is, are you competent?
Yep.
Can you do the job?
Yeah.
After that, then all the other demographic issues should come into play. Like, if that's your thing, if that's what you want to focus on. I particularly don't, because I don't think that's important. I just want I want the best person for the job, no matter what the job is, because then I can look at that person and be like, well, what's your problem? They're credible, and we're moving along. We don't have that in this administration. And so when you get into things like debt ceiling arguments and stuff like that, you're arguing, or you're dealing with like the C team, because they're not the best people for this job, because Joe Biden has not hired the best people for jobs. He's hired people to check boxes so he can look good politically.
Yeah. How are you doing on time, by the way? I know you're getting ready to hop on a plane. Are you still okay? Can you still hang out?
Oh yeah, I'm solid. I'm right now. I'm between Concourse B and Concourse C.
Okay. Well, feel free to let me know when you got to jump, because I know well, as soon as they call you in, you got to go. So I understand that. All right, a couple of other things that are going on, including, I am concerned about what we are not talking about with regard, again, to something that we've talked about many, many, many times, what the wage numbers that came out recently, the jobs numbers, the inflation numbers, and the spinning of all of these numbers, and how ultimately, even when it comes to Social Security and Medicare, and some of the tough calls that are going to have to be made. And, here we go with the policies that are showing the American people how damaging that they can be when you're talking about spending trillions of dollars and not doing anything about cutting anything at all. Are you concerned that people, it's not resonating? In other words, as we get closer and closer to a time when hopefully we can vote some people out and make some changes, are you concerned that it's not resonating, that it's not enough? Like maybe the hurts, I hate to say that the hurt's not enough, but people have always, they've got too many things going on in their life, as has been described. You got all these things that are happening.
Oh, no.
What do you think?
I'm not concerned about that. I think the hurt is more than enough. I think people fully understand that this economy is not doing what it should be doing. Joe Biden is talking about how inflation's going down, but what he doesn't tell you is that we're dealing now with the second year of this inflation. So, yeah, prices between this year and last year are up 6.4% overall. Right. But prices last year were up 8.3% overall. So we're now into a situation where your prices are up over a 2-year span, roughly 12 to 13%. When you have to compound those percentage increases into a second year, like this is a disaster for so many people in the country. I think for Republicans to be successful, a couple things. Number one, we have to harp on the economic message. We have to talk about eggs and bread and milk and all those household things. Two, we got to talk about how we're still not thriving from an energy perspective, and we're falling behind on the world stage. And the third piece is we can't let the left define us on these social issues. And that's different from some Republicans who would say we can't get into social issues. I disagree. I think there are social issues we can campaign on because they're not really social issues. They're cultural issues. What I'm saying is we can't let the left define us on these cultural issues, because they'll try to define us to some quasi, bigoted box, which is completely insane, right. As opposed to talking about there's serious ramifications against American culture and America's future if they continue to push their agenda and their indoctrination. So I think that's the pathway to be successful. I think people are there for that. You just have to do the job when it's time to elect people.
I wonder how we did that. How did we get to a place where the minority of voices seem to be the ones that control everything? That we allow for somebody to say, no, you don't understand. This is how it's going to be, and you will do this. And if you don't, there are consequences. How did we get to that place? And because to me, the culture battle, the culture war, and some people roll their eyes when I say that. They do. And they don't want to talk about it. They don't see it as being so paramount to where we need to be in the future, and how if we don't concentrate on that and fight this battle and win this battle, then there's a lot of trouble ahead in so many different ways. I mean, I just wonder how we got to this place and how we flip it. I guess it's just our own sphere, our own bubble. I mean, how much can you do federally?
Look, America's awesome. Honestly, I think how we got to it is, man, life in America is so good. that everybody is just thinking about their families and what really is important. We've not paid attention to the institutions in education or in media or in finance. Like, there's been no real need to. There's no need. There's been no urgency to, because America has basically been the golden goose, where as long as you can build businesses and live by your merit, you're largely left alone. It's only been because we've been focused on the things that matter to us as individuals that we haven't seen what the radical left has done from a political perspective, from an institutional perspective. But, I think people are paying attention to that now because the cancer of these policies is now hitting everybody's life. And I think people have had enough.
Yeah. Yeah,
anyway, Drew, I do got to run now.
Good. All right, go. All right, Congressman Byron Donald is joining us on Daybreak 92.5 Fox News. He's catching a plane. All right, we'll see you later. Safe travels.
See you, Drew.